Good morning, team, and happy Monday. Mr. McCarthy here again with the second in our latest Leadership Insights discussion on leadership tools that can really generate breakthrough results. And they're really focused on collaboration within a team. Last week we talked about generous listening and the power that generous listening has in this regard. Today we're going to talk about trust. And I think this is a really interesting topic. So, leadership and followership require two different types of trust. I think there are two different types of trust in the human system. One type is earned trust, and this is very familiar to us. The other, less familiar, is trust that's granted. And I've often considered the difference between the two. Earned trust can increase and decrease through deeds and actions, or even unforeseen circumstances. Think of it like a bank account. When someone does something really good that you consider trustworthy, their trust level goes up in their account. We trust a friend who's been consistent, a team member that's been consistent, keeping their promises, doing what they've said, meeting their commitments. And then, we might trust a business, that's always, met our expectations. We can even trust without having direct experience. Example I often talk about here is when you go to a doctor that was recommended to you by someone that you've known and you really trust. We kind of invest a degree of our trust in this new doctor, even though we don't know them personally. And maybe that's, to do with the fact that they're a doctor and they have their certificates on the wall. You think of that similarly with, our certified instructors and so on. But they earn that trust either directly or indirectly. And you think about their trust account can go up and down depending on how they behave. And conversely, then when they violate that trust, their trust account can go down, right? And sometimes it goes down to zero, and sometimes it can never. The account is closed, right? And that can happen very, very quickly, and it can take a long time to rebuild earned trust, if ever it is re-earned. And in either case, the trust, that kind of earned trust, is based on the past. Right? Past deeds, past, experiences. However, there's an interesting other type of trust. That's granted trust. It's distinct from earned trust. The most striking difference is that trust granted is not contingent on, actions or deeds. Trust granted is not established or affected by the deeds of people or circumstances. And it's granted, it's like an all or none basis, right? You don't have levels of granted trust like you do in your trust account. It's non-rational, it's sort of emotional. It's actually a commitment. Granted trust is based on commitment. It's given in one word, and it's absolute. And when you grant trust based on shared commitments with individuals or teams, it's very, very powerful. When we grant trust, we're saying that the other person or team, their deeds will be seen in the context that we already trust them. We've granted them that trust. And then if the actions are kind of inconsistent with that, with those commitments that we make together, those promises that we make together, they're seen more as mistakes than they are a withdrawal of our trust from their trust account. And this is particularly important when we're trying to drive breakthrough results. Granted trust can almost be said to kind of require an act of faith. It creates a kind of playing field of great freedom, but also great responsibility on both parts. And when you're creating something new, or you're trying to really, working with a new team, or like I said, trying to make a breakthrough result, it sometimes requires that large grant of trust, right, to move that game forward. Because you might never have enough time to work together to raise the levels of earned trust in those trust accounts. Now that's still happening at the same time, by the way, and they're going up and down. This is why it's important to distinguish earned trust from granted trust. Like I said, you might not have the time, to work with every individual to be able to get that trust, earned trust level to the right place. If you want to produce those, desired breakthrough results. So again, earned trust, it's kind of like entitled, and it's based on past events. And it can be shaped by, those one-on-one events or transactions that take place. It can increase and decrease depending on, deeds, circumstances. It tends to be kind of like our usual automatic go-to place when it comes to trust. Granted trust, however, as I said, has to be given freely. It's a conscious choice, and it has to be made on commitments, right? Don't just make it on a, from the heart emotional basis. But what's powerful about it is it's focused on the future, and it creates a great foundation for relationship and for those transformational kind of activities that I talked about. It goes way beyond, the success or failure of the last interaction that you had. Now, both kinds of trust are important, however, right? They're both important, they're both useful, but they have their place. So granted trust is really required to take, those futures, to go beyond the predictable. Earned trust is still really useful for situations requiring that kind of more predictable certainty, reliability. Like I said, we earn trust by meeting expectations. Unfortunately, sometimes those expectations aren't communicated. Clearly, that comes back to our conversation about the power of communication. So, trust can be a very fragile thing. But, I encourage us all to think about, the power of trust and the distinction of those two types of trust and how they can really drive different behaviors, different relationships, and different results. Okay, that's it for now. Next week I've got another whole conversation to bring to you about probably combine two topics: scale and point of view. Really interesting topics too. Hope you enjoy them. As always, if you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with people you think will be interested, and any feedback, I'm always happy to have a conversation about these things. Okay, thanks again, and see you soon.